In a world where even the smallest events can change everything, imagine if history had taken just a slightly different turn. One extra breath, one illness that never came. In this alternate timeline, Kimimaru, Orochimaru's most perfect disciple, never fell ill with the disease that claimed his life. He lived on, loyal, strong, and still the ideal vessel for the Serpent Sannin's twisted ambitions. From that single change, the course of shinobi history took a sharp turn. Orochimaru was no longer limited by a decaying body or the passage of time. With Kimimaru's flawless form, bones of steel, godlike strength, and a genius mind untouched by morality, Orochimaru began his ascent to absolute power. With this new body, Orochimaru didn't just survive his defeat in Konoha, he thrived. The attack on the Hidden Leaf ended in a crushing victory. Hiruzen's hands never managed to seal his jutsu, and the world began to tremble under his growing shadow. From hidden laboratories to open battlefields, the name Orochimaru became a symbol of terror. Every move he made was another step toward immortality. And when his gaze finally fell upon Sasuke Uchiha as his next target, everyone knew. This was no longer about revenge or experimentation. This was about the total destruction of the shinobi world. Oh yeah, so we can keep interacting and making the anime storytelling world even more fun together. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and drop your thoughts in the comments to keep the vibe going. Alright guys, let's jump straight into the discussion. Let's go. Sometimes people forget this, but Orochimaru's original plan back in the first part of Naruto wasn't to take Sasuke's body. It was actually to take Kimimaru's. The reason is simple but insane. Orochimaru wanted Kimimaru's Kekkei Genkai, the Shikatsumiyaku, an ability that lets him manipulate his own bones, turning his body into an almost indestructible weapon. Back then, Kimimaru was Orochimaru's most perfect student, his proudest and most successful experiment. But that dream fell apart when Kimimaru was struck by a mysterious illness that slowly destroyed his body. He died young, and with him, Orochimaru's dream of obtaining the perfect vessel was buried as well. Now imagine if Kimimaru had never gotten sick. With a healthy body and full power, Orochimaru could have taken over Kimimaru's body and become far stronger than any version of himself we've ever seen. Just remove Kimimaru's illness from the timeline, and the entire Naruto world would change drastically. With Kimimaru's body, Orochimaru wouldn't just have a perfect vessel. He'd have a biological weapon deadlier than anything, even before performing the body transfer ritual. In fact, Kimimaru was supposed to take part in the invasion of Konoha alongside Orochimaru during the fight against Hiruzen Sarutobi. Orochimaru once said that if Kimimaru had been there, the battle would have ended much faster, and he wouldn't have lost his arms to the Reaper Death Seal. But since Kimimaru was bedridden, Orochimaru had to fight alone. In this alternate version, if Kimimaru had been there, Hiruzen would have died without ever sealing Orochimaru's hands. That means Orochimaru would have still had access to Edo Tensei, summoning legendary shinobi freely. The entire ninja world could have fallen much sooner. The invasion of Konoha would have been a total success, not necessarily wiping out the village completely, but Orochimaru would have achieved a massive victory, killing his former teacher and crippling Konoha's main defense. He wouldn't need Tsunade to heal his arms, and his body wouldn't rot as fast since he wouldn't have suffered the Death Seal's curse. With that extra time and power, Orochimaru could continue operating in the shadows, strengthening himself even more. And without Orochimaru's attack leaving a desperate need for leadership, Tsunade might never have returned to Konoha. There'd be no battle with Kabuto, no moment where Naruto inspires her to believe again, and possibly no fifth Hokage for a long time. Konoha would be left leaderless, vulnerable, while Orochimaru built power behind the scenes. And what about Sasuke? Even with Kimimaru's body, Orochimaru would still eventually target Sasuke. Kimimaru's body could only last about 3 or 4 years before deteriorating. So Orochimaru would start searching for a younger, stronger vessel. Sasuke, with a Sharingan, would still be the perfect candidate, especially after failing to get Itachi's body. But this time, Orochimaru would be far more dangerous, starting from a much higher level of power. With Kimimaru's body, Orochimaru could train Sasuke patiently, waiting for the perfect time to take over. There'd be no rush like before. 3 or 4 years later, the ninja world might witness the birth of the most terrifying version of Orochimaru ever, a fusion of Kimimaru's body and the Uchiha Sharingan. In short, if Kimimaru had never fallen ill, the Naruto world would have been a much darker place. Orochimaru would have defeated Hiruzen. Tsunade might never have become Hokage, and the balance of the ninja world would have crumbled completely, all because of one small change in fate. Kimimaru lived. Now imagine that alternate Naruto timeline. It would be absolutely insane. In this alternate reality, Kimimaru never falls ill, and Orochimaru is finally able to carry out his original plan without any interruptions. He successfully takes over his most perfect student's body long before Sasuke ever enters the picture. With Kimimaru's healthy and battle-ready body, Orochimaru sends him on the grand mission to Konoha, the same mission that once involved the Sound Four, but this time they're known as the Sound Five, with Kimimaru leading the team. Their combined power skyrockets to terrifying new levels. In this version, Shikamaru's rescue team wouldn't stand a chance. Gaara and Rock Lee, who barely managed to hold off the sickly Kimimaru, will be completely overwhelmed. A healthy Kimimaru is nothing short of a walking catastrophe. Without the illness that ate away at his strength, the entire battle would have turned into a massacre. Orochimaru wouldn't need to rush to find a new vessel anymore. He'd simply wait for his favorite student to return and then transfer his soul into that flawless body. If that truly happened, Orochimaru's power would reach an almost inhuman level. Kimimaru's body alone was said to rival that of a Hokage like Hiruzen, but combine that with Orochimaru's forbidden jutsu, and you get a being far beyond ordinary shinobi. Kimimaru's Shikatsumiyaku gave him bones harder than steel, sharper than a divine blade, and nearly impenetrable defense. So tough, even Gaara's sand couldn't pierce it. Add Orochimaru's genius intellect, regeneration, and deadly serpent techniques, and you get something beyond comprehension. This wouldn't just be a shinobi anymore, it would be a true monster. Even Edo Tensei Kimimaru could take out dozens of samurai and withstand Naruto's KCM-1 Shadow clone, a feat that already shows how terrifying his potential was while alive. Now imagine a living Kimimaru, fully in control of his second stage curse mark, serving as Orochimaru's perfect vessel. The result would be a demonic form so powerful that even Madara might hesitate to face him. In such a world, the fourth great ninja war might never happen. Orochimaru, using Kimimaru's body, would have launched his own global war long before that, commanding armies of Edo Tensei reanimations and colossal snakes against the 5 great nations. There'd be no Akatsuki, no Madara, and possibly no Naruto strong enough to stop him. The entire shinobi world would kneel before Orochimaru, the perfect being born from Kimimaru's steel body and the mad genius of the Snake Sannin. In this timeline, Orochimaru would have achieved the ultimate realization of his lifelong obsession. His biggest weakness, his fragile, decaying body, would finally be gone. Kimimaru's body, nearly indestructible, with incredible endurance and unmatched regenerative potential, would become the perfect vessel. And if Orochimaru managed to master Sage Mode in this form, his new body could finally withstand natural energy without breaking down as it once did. This combination of forbidden knowledge, razor-sharp intelligence, and raw biological power would create a being nearly impossible to defeat. In the original timeline, Sasuke managed to trick and defeat Orochimaru when his body was weak and deteriorating. But here, things are completely different. Orochimaru in Kimimaru's body wouldn't be a weakened scientist anymore. He'd be a stable, deadly monster. With Sage Mode, every movement would be faster, every attack more precise, every sense heightened. He could even detect enemies through the faint vibrations of chakra in the air. There'd be nowhere to hide from such a predator. With a perfect vessel, Orochimaru would undoubtedly refine all his jutsu to perfection, especially Edo Tensei. If Kabuto could resurrect the great shinobi legends and build an almost unstoppable army, then Orochimaru in this form could do far more. He could recreate Hashirama, Tobirama, and even Madara, enhancing them beyond their original power levels. Not just resurrecting them, but modifying them to be stronger, deadlier, and eternally loyal. His Edo Tensei army would surpass the limits of life itself. With that kind of force, Orochimaru could wipe out Akatsuki without lifting a finger. Just send his reanimated soldiers, and the entire shinobi world would tremble. Meanwhile, Sasuke, his once promising student, might still grow powerful, but next to this perfected version of Orochimaru, he'd only ever remain a faint shadow, forever chasing a master who had already transcended humanity. In Orochimaru's eyes, Sasuke was nothing more than the next step toward his ultimate evolution. If he had chosen to take Sasuke's body at that point, things would have gone down very differently from the original story. The body-switching ritual would have been flawless, no longer hindered by the limits of his old vessel. With Kimimaru's resilient body and perfected Sage Mode precision, Orochimaru would have gained absolute control. He could read every move, every intention Sasuke had before it even happened. Even if Sasuke tried to resist inside the ritual dimension, his chances of survival would have been practically zero. The outcome? The shinobi world would witness the birth of something terrifying, a being that combined Orochimaru's brilliance, Kimimaru's body, and the Uchiha Sharingan. This wouldn't just be a scientist or a ninja genius anymore. It would be a true monster. A fighter with divine-level mastery over ninjutsu and jinjutsu, something the ninja world had never faced before, and quite frankly, could never be ready for. Just imagine if Orochimaru had really taken Sasuke's body. In this timeline, the curse mark that we know would actually be a form of impure sage energy, wild, unstable, and incomplete. But Orochimaru was different. He trained under the White Snake Sage, mastering the true Dragon Sage mode, which gave him complete control over sage energy. With that kind of power, he could rival any sage user. Even if Sasuke tried to trap him in a paralyzing jinjutsu, Orochimaru could effortlessly swap his old vessel for Sasuke's superior body. Sasuke in his Hibi phase was already far stronger than Kimimaru, and this new power would be Orochimaru's launchpad to unleash chaos upon the shinobi world. Since the beginning, Orochimaru had always craved destruction, not for revenge, but for evolution. He once tried to destroy Konoha just to spark change. Now, with Sasuke's body, Edo Tensei, and an immortal army under his control, he could attack any village he pleased, Iwagakure, Konohagakure, even Sunagakure, summoning endless undead shinobi to wreak havoc. At that point, Orochimaru wouldn't just be dangerous, he'd be nearly unbeatable. He would have Sasuke's Sharingan, Dragon Sage Mode, and countless forbidden jutsu at his disposal. If Itachi found out that Orochimaru had taken over his brother's body, everything would shift instantly. Itachi would move without hesitation, searching for Orochimaru and trying to rescue Sasuke. During the body switch ritual, the souls of previous hosts don't completely vanish. They remain trapped within Orochimaru's spiritual realm. That means Sasuke's soul could still be saved. And knowing Itachi's vast knowledge of sealing and spiritual techniques, he might actually find a way to pull Sasuke back. But could Itachi really win against a monster like that? Against Orochimaru, armed with an infinite Edo Tensei army? It's hard to imagine. Picture Orochimaru summoning 4 legendary Kage, the 4th Kazekage, 2nd Mizukage, 2nd Tsuchikage, and 3rd Reikage, all at once against a single chakra-drained Itachi. Even with the Totsuka blade at his side, sealing that many undead Kage would be nearly impossible. Itachi's only real chance would be to strike first, trapping Orochimaru in a powerful Tsukuyami and immediately extracting Sasuke's soul from within. But even that would be insanely risky. Even if Orochimaru's body were destroyed, his Edo Tensei army would continue fighting endlessly. And with Sage Mode enhancing his physical abilities, close combat would be a nightmare for Itachi. Orochimaru's new body would have near-perfect reflexes, monstrous durability, and a Sharingan's resistance against Itachi's Genjutsu. He might even be able to break free from Tsukuyomi itself. If Itachi tried to incinerate him with Amaterasu, Orochimaru could simply shed his skin, just like Sasuke did in the original battle, and slip away. In this alternate timeline, Itachi's chances of victory would be almost zero. If Orochimaru managed to kill him, there's no doubt he'd seize the opportunity to take over Itachi's body as well. That would allow him to uncover the secret of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the technique of merging siblings' eyes to achieve eternal vision. The only obstacle left for Orochimaru would be awakening Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan itself. Normally, that power is triggered by deep emotional trauma, something Orochimaru, a man nearly devoid of human emotion, could never truly feel. Which means, even with Sasuke's body, the Mangekyo might forever remain out of his reach. However, Orochimaru was never the kind of man to give up easily. Even if Sasuke's body started deteriorating, he would have found a way to extend its lifespan through countless experiments, maybe even for another 5 to 7 years. Within that time, it's almost certain he'd discover a method to artificially awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, either by simulating emotional trauma or manipulating Sasuke's genes directly. Once achieved, he could transplant Itachi's eyes into his new vessel and gain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. At that point, his power would reach a level far beyond human comprehension. But Orochimaru wouldn't stop there. He'd likely infuse his new body with Hashirama's cells as well, just as he had done to others before. That would grant him rapid regeneration and possibly even access to the wood release. By then, Orochimaru wouldn't just be human. He'd become a divine being in every sense of the word. Imagine it: Sasuke's body, Itachi's eyes, Hashirama's power, and the immense wisdom of Sage Mode from the Ryuchi Cave. No force in the shinobi world would be capable of stopping him. If Orochimaru truly achieved this, his abilities would transcend reason. He'd be a living god capable of merging eternal Mangekyo power with perfect Sage Mode energy, reinforced by Hashirama's resilient cells that could withstand nearly any attack. His potential would surpass the limits of mortality itself. And with his mastery of Edo Tensei, he could resurrect an army of legendary shinobi, including Itachi and every fallen member of the Akatsuki. The world would tremble before such an overwhelming force. In this scenario, maybe only Obito, with his Kamui, could stand a chance against him, though even that would likely prove futile. A sage-powered Orochimaru with an Uchiha body and Rinnegan would be an unstoppable monster. His endless army of reanimated shinobi could fight, fall, and rise again without end. Even if all 5 Kage united against him as they once did against Madara, the result would be no different: total annihilation. Orochimaru's lifelong goal was always clear: to master every jutsu in existence and become the ultimate being. Had he never lost his hands, or if he had successfully taken Kimimaru's body, his path toward that ambition would have begun long ago. The only real threat to him might come from Madara himself, if Orochimaru ever dared to resurrect him. But that would be a dangerous gamble. If Madara ever regained control of himself after being revived, he could easily turn against Orochimaru, destroy him, and use his body for his own purposes, possibly even with Black Zetsu's help to continue the Moon's Eye plan. However, if Orochimaru was clever enough not to revive Madara, and instead kept him as a secret last resort weapon, he could very well dominate the entire shinobi world. Even if all the great nations combined forces to resist him, the war would devastate half the planet. And though Orochimaru might eventually fall, the destruction he'd cause would be beyond repair. He was far more cunning than Kabuto, infinitely more patient in his strategies, and ruthlessly determined to reach his goals. The only possible hope would be Itachi, if he managed to free himself from Edo Tensei through Kotoa Mitsukami, just like in the original story. But if that never happened, the entire world would inevitably fall into Orochimaru's hands. Ultimately, this all highlights how crucial Hiruzen's decision was when he sealed Orochimaru's arms back then. It may have seemed like a small victory, but in truth, it saved the world from unimaginable catastrophe. Had Orochimaru retained his full power in both hands, no one could have stopped him. The shinobi world would have collapsed under the weight of one mad scientist's ambition, a thirst for eternal power and infinite knowledge. In the end, everything hinged on something as fragile as Kimimaru's illness. That single, seemingly trivial twist of fate became the fine line separating life from total destruction. Without that illness, Orochimaru would have achieved his perfect form, an immortal being with power rivaling the gods themselves. The ninja world would have no hope left. No Naruto, no Tsunade, no one strong enough to stop him. Everything would fall under the rule of Orochimaru, the master of jutsu and death itself. This story reminds us that in the Naruto universe, destiny often depends on the smallest, most unpredictable factors, not on prophecies or grand power, but on something as simple as a fragile student's body. Had Kimimaru lived, history would have turned into a dark, endless legend. The shinobi world might still exist, but only as a kingdom of the undead ruled by one immortal serpent god, Orochimaru, the being who finally conquered everything. Thank you so much for sticking with the story till the end. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down in the comment section below. Thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one.